Welcome to another PVAW virtual commemoration, the 77th anniversary of the Liberation of Catanduanes. To kick off, let us welcome the PVAW Administrator, Undersecretary Ernesto G. Carolina, for his message.
Magandang araw sa ating lahat. Today, we join the people of Catanduanes in the celebration of the 77th year anniversary of their liberation from Japanese occupation during the Second World War. The liberation of the island province of Catanduanes stands out in the story of the Philippine Liberation Campaign because it was successfully carried out solely by Filipino guerrillas. Among the homegrown warriors that led the resistance movement in Catanduanes was Colonel Salvador Rodolfo Sr., also known in Catanduanes as the Phantom, or the man who never dies. After his release as a prisoner of war in Capas, Tarlac, Colonel Rodolfo went back to his hometown to regroup and laid his plans to resume the resistance movement in his province. Having rallied a number of civilian volunteers, including the Catanduanes underground forces, Colonel Rodolfo organized a guerrilla unit called the Catanduanes Liberation Forces, or CLF, later on renamed as the 158th Regimental Combat Team of the 6th Army. At the beginning of 1945, as the Japanese presence in the island province was sparse, the guerrilla unit focused its activities mainly on the maintenance of peace and order in the island. However, as the news of the Allied forces recapturing town after another from the control of the Japanese Imperial Army continued to spread across the nation, the Catanduanes guerrillas decided to pursue their plan to liberate the island on their own. Alarmed by the continuous consolidation and fortification of guerrilla forces in the province, the Japanese tried to devise preemptive tactics to capture the guerrilla leaders. However, as the guerrilla forces became stronger, the Japanese resorted to violent tactics by conducting midnight raids and intensifying the conduct of combat patrols. A series of ambush encounters with the enemy resulted in the annihilation of every Japanese patrol that crossed the path of the Catanduanes Liberation Forces, or CLF. A total of 56 Japanese soldiers were killed in various encounters, while the guerrilla units suffered comparatively low casualties. Subsequently, a series of frontal attacks made by the guerrilla forces destroyed the Japanese garrison in the town of Panganiban, where 75 Japanese soldiers were killed. It was followed by the capture of the Japanese garrison in Katamian between the towns of Bato and Baras, inflicting 122 casualties against the Japanese. These encounters continued in the first few days of February 1945. During the attack of the guerrillas in Virac, the capital of Catanduanes, the enemy suffered a loss of 177 men killed in action. The last Japanese garrison to fall was the biggest garrison at Batalay, Bato, which housed a radio installation secured by roughly 250 men, and all were wiped out. By the morning of February 8, 1945, Colonel Rodolfo finally declared the independence of Catanduanes in what is now the municipal building and the Virac Parish Church area. Even before the Allied forces landed at any point in the Bicol Peninsula, the province of Catanduanes had been liberated by her own loyal freedom fighters. Undoubtedly, this victory saved the Allied Liberation Forces much valuable time and resources. The coming together of the people of Catanduanes to defend their island is a testament of the Filipinos' spirit of unity and solidarity. And even after more than 7 decades that passed, the same driving force that fueled our Filipino veterans to triumph over the Japanese forces remains to be the same driving force that will make our nation prevail over and defeat what is regarded to be the toughest and most pervasive adversary of these modern times, the COVID-19 pandemic. Thus, may the heroic deeds of our Catanduanes veterans inspire us to marshal the same determination and patriotism they have embodied as we contribute our fair share in ending the current health crisis. By so doing, we may be able to pay back our debt of gratitude to the very people who inspire us, the Filipino veterans. Mabuhay ang ating mga veterano, mabuhay ang Pilipino, mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you very much, Yusek Carolina. Now, to give us a brief summary of how the island of Catanduanes was bravely defended by its local people, let us watch this audio-visual presentation. Also joining us this morning is the VFT Region 5 President, Colonel Jose C. Soreta.
"75 years ago, our veterans, with great courage in amazing fortitude, faced a determined enemy, emerged victorious, and liberated our province. Our veterans were willing to make the supreme sacrifice, pay the ultimate price for our liberty and freedom. Our veterans are living legacies of the bravery of the Filipino and of our cherished democracy. Over the decades, we have honored them, cared for them, and ensured that their heroic contributions are never forgotten. It has been my honor to be a part of these efforts. To the best of my abilities, I have worked to ensure that these benefits are received and even enhanced, especially during this pandemic. It is also my honor and privilege to speak on their behalf on this important day in our history. For I witness for myself their acts of courage over 7 decades ago. I know all of us here are eternally grateful for their great service to our province and our nation. There is one more way to thank and honor them. We must join together and secure our common future by meaningfully participating in that most sacred of democratic traditions, to freely choose those who will lead us and govern our country. This May, let us go out and vote, and let us vote wisely. Let us vote for those who will preserve law and order, promote progress, and strengthen our democracy. In addition, our votes should go to those who will look after the interests and welfare of those who vote and sacrifice for our freedom and democratic way of life. Our dear veterans. Mabuhay ang veterano! Thank you.
Next to address us on this auspicious day is the Mayor of the Municipality of Virac, Mayor Sinfroso M. Sarmiento Jr.
Isang malayang araw po sa lahat. Ang LGU Virac ay nakikiisa sa paggunita ng ika-77 anibersaryo ng tinaguriang Liberation of Catanduanes. Tunay na dapat ikarangal na mapabilang sa lahing Katandungan dahil noon pa man ang ating mga ninuno ay nagpakita ng kagitingan, katapangan at hindi matawarang pagmamahal sa bayan nang ipaglaban nila ang Islang Catanduanes sa mga mananakop na banyagang Hapon. Nararapat lamang na ang kadakilaan ng Catanduanes Liberation Forces na pinumunuan ni Colonel Salvador Rodulfo ay ating gunitain at maipagbigay alam sa ating mga makabagong henerasyon upang ang mga natatanging kwento ng pagmamahal at pag-aalay ng buhay para sa ilang bayan ay patuloy na maging inspirasyon ng bawat isa upang sa gayon ang nasyonalismo at patriotismo ay manatili sa puso at isipan ng bawat Pilipino. Pinapupurihan din natin ang Philippine Veterans Affairs Office dahil sa kabila ng mga agam-agam na ating dinaranas sa panahon ng pandemya, ay matugumpay pa rin na naitawid ang tunay na makabuluhang okasyon na ito, ang virtual commemoration for the 77th anniversary of the Liberation of Catanduanes. Salamat sa pagbibigay ng halaga, pagkilala at papuri sa kabayanihan ng aming mga kababayang Katandungano. Diyos ang mabaluspo at mabuhay ang Catanduanes at ang bansang Pilipinas. Salamat po.
Also here with us is the Governor of the Province of Catanduanes, Governor Joseph C. Cua.
To Yusek Ernesto Carolina, Administrator of Philippine Veterans Affairs Office, to all esteemed officials of said agency, and most importantly, to the brave and noble heroes who led Catanduanes to where it is today. Our beloved veterans, my snappiest salute to all. Exactly 77 years ago, you have bravely faced one of the most oppressive forces to wage war in our country. The Japanese occupation is notorious for its cruelty, and our province was not exempt from this. Just imagining the wartime as written in the history books is terrifying in itself. How it had been in reality must have been an ordeal which you, our valiant veterans, have dealt with in place for the sake of reclaiming our island. This is why today, on the 77th Liberation Day, we come together to honor you. All of you have offered the greatest sacrifice a man could ever make in his lifetime. You braved the battlefield with your lives and families at stake to protect Catanduanes and its people. And now the blood, sweat, and tears that you selflessly shed on the very soil of this island helped cultivate a progressive and peaceful future for the many generations that came after you. Dahil matutumparan ng samuyang henerasyon asin ka mga masunod na henerasyon ang ginibo nindo para sa satuyang probinsya. Dakula ang samuyang utang na buot sa Indo, asin dasalme, nga samuyang mapangalagaan asin ipaglaban kung kinakaipo ang kalayaan na sa Indong niregalo sa samuya. On behalf of the Katandunganon people, I am profoundly grateful for all of you. We humbly acknowledge that we cannot serve you in the same way that you serve our forefathers and the province. But as the representative of the current generation, we will continue to honor you and your brothers in arms who have fallen during the battle that took place in February 1945. Diyos mabalos, sulong Katandungan, sulong Pilipinas.
And lastly, we have the representative of the Lone District of Catanduanes, Congressman Hector S. Sanchez.
All mayors, barangay captains, all government officials, guests, ladies and gentlemen, my dearest Katandunginos, and our hero veterans, good day to all. As we commemorate the 77th anniversary of our province liberation from the Japanese Imperial Army, I would first like to illuminate the man behind this victory, none other than the late Colonel Salvador Rodolfo Sr. of the Bicol Brigade. The Phantoms' bravery have fought for the liberation of every town in our dear province of Catanduanes. The Catanduanes Liberation Forces, under the leadership of Colonel Rodolfo, has epitomized the Filipino brand of courage and strength. Their valor founded the rich history of our province, which every Katandunginon will continue to tell on the future generations and their stories will always serve as an inspiration to every aspiring legionnaire of our country. The efforts of our Filipino soldiers will all forever be celebrated and remembered, as they are the reason behind the liberty that we are experiencing today. In honor of our municipal resolution institutionalizing the observance and celebration of February 8 of every year as the Catanduanes Liberation Day, without further ado, let us all raise our glasses as we look back to the past and now forward the honor and acknowledgement that our dearest veterans truly deserve. The current pandemic may not permit us to physically gather to celebrate this commemoration, but every respect and honor to our heroes will continue to be expressed through this virtual event. With the utmost gratitude, I am one with the whole province of Catanduanes and giving thanks to the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office for making this virtual commemoration possible. Thank you and have a good day to all.
And that concludes the virtual commemoration of the 77th anniversary of the Liberation of Catanduanes. I am Felicia Lois Lania. Thank you very much for joining us and stay safe, everyone.